guys. So we are now at Web Summit in Doha, in Qatar. Here with you, Anna Tutova, co-founder of Coins Telegram, and our guest, Amjad Masad, who is co-founder of Replit. It's a company unicorn with a valuation of over $1.16 billion, and they're backed by many Taiwan investors, such as A16Z, Oslo Ventures, Ark Invest, Naval, and many others. And I'm just started, I would say, like coding platform for the developers, and now they have onboarded more than 22 million developers from the whole world, and they will implement AI. And besides that, Amjad is a Bitcoin maximalist, so we'll talk more about that. So great to have you here, Amjad.
Thank you for having me.
So can you tell us about your background and how did you generally get into tech, and how did the idea of starting Replit come to you?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Jordan, not too far away from here. We're here in Qatar, Doha, and I was lucky that my father bought a computer when I was very young. He bought it when I was 6 years old. He took a big loan to buy it. It was very expensive, and I remember one of my earliest memories is watching him trying to use it, and he was finger typing, trying to figure it out. And I learned how to use it very quickly. And in fact, I started teaching him how to
Oh,
use it.
really?
And back then, to use a computer, you need to do a little bit of coding. You need to do a little bit of DOS commands, all of that.
Which year was it?
1993. I was
Oh,
6 years
super
old.
early.
Yes. Um, so I was lucky in that regard. I got access to computer, learned how to code, started a few businesses. One internet cafe management business that I started where I wrote software for an internet cafe. But it wasn't until college that I had the idea for Replit, and the idea came because I didn't have a laptop, and every time I wanted to do some homework, I would have to set up the development environment, I had to download the IDE, the interpreter, the compiler, the packages, everything, and it was very hard. And it was very hard to share the program with someone else. And so I started thinking, like, why can't I just put it in the browser and run it there? It turns out it's very difficult. So I had this idea in 2008, really had a big breakthrough in 2011, and put it open source on the web, like Satoshi, and um, and a lot of people started using it. I was really surprised. It was on Hacker News. It went really viral.
So it was not really idea as a business. It was just like you decided to create it and you put it open source.
Well, I wanted to create a business, but I thought the engine should be open source. So the engine is that ran the program. Um, and I thought the business needs to be a product around that engine. So I put the engine out as open source and a lot of the different components. Because I grew up just using open source, and I expected, like, when I'm building a library, I just want to put it out in the open. Well, it turns out a lot of other people had similar ideas to mine. For example, Code Academy wanted to create an interactive programming environment that made it so that you can learn how to code. And so they started using my open source software, and they reached out to me. At the time I was trying to start something in Jordan, but I didn't have capital, I didn't have access to mentorship information, any of that. So I decided to join them, and they got me a visa, and I went to New York, and I joined Code Academy.
So for how long or how many years did you work with them, and how did Replit evolve to a more serious business?
Yeah, so at the time I sort of stopped thinking about it or working on it because I was really focused on my job. And then I left to go work for Facebook in 2013. And uh, Facebook was doing a lot of really interesting open source stuff at the time. They had just released React, although people hated it because you were putting HTML and JavaScript. People really hated that. But I thought that Facebook was a really good hacker culture, and they had the ideas around Internet.org, where they were going to connect everyone in the world. So I just wanted to contribute to that. So I joined in 2013, and the thing I'm most proud of from my time at Facebook is I contributed to React and React Native and the tool chain that made developers' lives a lot better. And I had the same mindset I had with Replit, which is how do you make it so that programming is more fun, easier, more accessible, gets you in a state of flow. And so I worked there for a few years before finally starting Replit, the company, in 2016.
And as well, you implement AI currently in Replit. So when did you start using it?
Actually, I started thinking about AI for code in like 2011 or something like that. I was working at Yahoo, and I was writing a lot of compilers and code manipulators, and I always thought like you can use language models for that. Before large language models, we had very simple language modeling techniques, and I played with the idea multiple times, but it never really worked very well. So I had the thought, and even in my pitch deck in, in 2016, you could see that I talk about how eventually we'll be able to train a machine learning model that helps coders. But the technology didn't come until like the first time I realized that it's coming, it was 2019. I looked at GPT-2. And GPT-2, for the first time, it could actually manipulate language. Computers are historically very bad at manipulating language. And GPT-2 could do it very easily. And so I thought that, okay, we're headed there. So I started, positioning the business to take advantage of it. But it wasn't around until around 2020 when we actually started building for it.
And you have a new product just right, like AI assistant. So can you tell more about this?
Yeah, we actually renamed it to Replit AI. And part of the reason we renamed it from Ghostwriter to Replit AI, because we felt, my hypothesis is that AI is going to be the main interface for all software. So you don't want to call your product something different. Just Replit should be AI. So now it's in every part of our system. Most interactions you have with our systems is somewhat powered by AI at this point. And I'm pushing the team really hard to think that it's not just the AI's team responsibility to build AI features. They build the platforms, they build the models, but everyone in the company has to be thinking about AI, has to be thinking about how to provide end user value for AI, but also how to make our internal processes a lot better with AI. So, um, AI has become very, very central to what we do. The core thing is what you mentioned, which is the coding assistant. Um, as you're coding, it'll show you suggestions, and you can accept these suggestions or just keep coding. Or if you stop, you can chat with AI. If you made an error, the AI would jump in, tell you what error you've made. So it's really in the entire interaction of coding, there's AI.
And as well now there are a lot of talk that the AI will completely eliminate jobs, and that even like Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, says that in the future there won't be developers because everything will be made by AI, and even currently NVIDIA chips are well developed by AI. So what are your thoughts about that, especially when your platform is specifically for developers?
Yeah, so I think he's right that everyone could become a programmer. I think he's right that coding is potentially fully automatable, but programming is not coding. Programming is about creating things. It's about engineering, um, and that will always be with us. The form factor might change. So instead of coding yourself, you're directing AI agents to code for you. And actually, my talk here at Web Summit, I just gave one, but I have another one on Wednesday, is about that. And I also give it TED Talks. People can look up my TED Talk about how in the future, actually, you don't code a lot. You're directing AI agents to do the coding for you.
So it will be your change in the business model of Replit in this way?
Yeah, I would say change of UX, not a business model. Our business model will always be about supporting software creators. Anyone who wants to create software, that's what we do.
So do you think like one time Replit may have like billions of people onboarded on it
Yes,
and just like directed by AI what they want to do?
100%. Yes,
In how many years do you think it will be possible?
probably 3 years.
So quick, do you think?
Yeah, I mean things are moving really fast. When I gave my TED talk in October, I like had a point where I talked about being able to talk to the agent in multimodal way, like sending a voice note, sending a picture, sending it a video, and that's already happening now. And so I think things are moving really fast and it will continue to accelerate. So I think over the next 3 to 5 years, software will change radically.
And in how many years maybe see AGI? And do you generally believe in AGI?
I don't believe in any point in time that becomes AGI. I just believe AI will get more and more powerful, and and perhaps it'll be more agentic, but it's still a piece of technology. It's still a tool. I don't see it as potentially something that will go rogue. It's just really hard for me to imagine these these scenarios, I think it presents a lot of challenges. A lot of them are existing challenges. For example, security, cybersecurity will become a lot more challenging. Um, Fraud and scam and things that are intended to hurt vulnerable people such as children or elderly, those will all get really worse. And so we need a lot more new companies to do defense against these problems. But I don't believe in the Terminator scenario that a lot of people believe in.
And on another note, you as well big Bitcoiner. So can you tell us how did you discover Bitcoin first, and why do you believe in it?
Yeah, I discovered Bitcoin when I discovered actually a Palestinian guy. I'm originally Palestinian as well. His name is Saifuddin Ammous. He wrote the Bitcoin Standard, and he actually, like, I started interacting with him on Twitter. He sent me an early copy of the Bitcoin Standard, and what got me really interested in Bitcoin uh, was uh, was actually less about the technology, despite being a technologist, but more about the impact it could have on the economy, on the world, and on freedom and liberty. Because I was really interested in Austrian economics. I was interested in how do you create more freedom and user choice in the world, and I thought that money is really a big thing with that. So far has not been returned to the people. It's been really always controlled by central entities. And so my interest in Bitcoin started as more, let's say, ideological. And then when I looked at the technology, I thought it was amazing. It's really simple. The white paper, you can read it in 5 minutes. It's very simple ideas. And the system is so robust. And you can imagine it being a 1,000-year idea problem. Like it can work for 1,000 years. Um, and and as a platform, it's also very interesting. The Lightning protocol is a very interesting way to program money on the internet. Um, and so I started digging into that a little later on. I still think it's maturing fast. It's still hard to use, but over the next few years, I think that Bitcoin will become a platform that people would want to build for.
So do you see Bitcoin as programmable money? Is it like investment asset, or what is it for you?
I think it is a replacement for gold as a standard, so as an infrastructure layer. That's for sure. That's already, I think, happened in a lot of ways. And then, when you get into layer two solutions, if they start to work, then it can be programmable money for sure. Um, there are a lot of ways in which, if money is truly programmable on the internet, it will unlock a lot of interesting use cases. We have the bounties platform on Replit, and it doesn't work very as well as I would like it to work, partly because the way the credit card system works and the way uh, it's not as dynamic as I'd like it to be. So when money becomes really programmable, we can see a lot more dynamic marketplaces on the internet.
So as well, if to describe in one word, what is Bitcoin for you? What do you see it?
One word, two.
One, two words, yeah.
I would say it's a civilizational primitive, and what I mean by that, it's a primitive piece of um, technology and abstraction that will help civilization um, uh, transcend many of the problems that we have today. So it's something that can work on a civilizational scale.
And as well, since you have developers from all over the world, and you know that like everybody before came to Silicon Valley to start their businesses there, now it's not needed anymore. Like you can be anywhere. What place does crypto and Bitcoin take in this empowerment of people and giving payouts to them?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, sorry. One of the challenges, and for people all over the world that are working online, is that their local currency is getting inflated like crazy, and they're getting poorer even as they make more money. So, like in very simple terms, the just the fact that they can store their money in Bitcoin is actually really huge. Being able to earn it in Bitcoin, keep it in Bitcoin, it's like having a Swiss your bank account in your pocket essentially. Um, and so that in itself is actually big. And also, like, the fact that it's in the cloud, it's in the internet. it also makes it very, very portable. And so, if your country turns to crap, and people confiscating money or stealing money, whatever, your money is actually safe. Uh, and so it'll introduce more freedom. It'll introduce more security for a lot of people, and that makes it so that a lot more people are willing to work online, are willing to earn online, and I think that uh, connects the global economy a lot better.
What are your thoughts about stable coins? Why you Bitcoin and why don't you like other altcoins?
I think there's a lot of noise. Look, I mean, I maybe there are some interesting use cases. I think stablecoin is one of the areas where you see some interesting use cases. You see some fintech companies use stablecoins on the back end to do settlements and things like that. So it probably has some interesting use. I think there are people building stablecoins on Bitcoin as well, backed by Bitcoin. Um, so look, I'm not going to dismiss everything, without even looking at it. Um, but so far, what I've seen is like really Bitcoin is the lasting thing, and I think the market is realizing that now, and there's a lot of noise, and the noise has really hurts Bitcoin adoption. So that's why I've, for the most part, just paid attention to Bitcoin.
And do you see any intersection of crypto, blockchain, and AI?
Well, for sure, AI agents need to be able to do commerce on the internet, and they need programmable money. That's one area. Another area is, and by the way, in my talk, I talk about that as well. Another area is, we have pay by usage now a lot, and Bitcoin Lightning, you can stream Sats, per AI token, and it's like a very good, high resolution way of paying for AI.
Yeah, that's great. And can you share as well? So you based in Silicon Valley. Currently, you are in Middle East. How do you see like the technological AI developments in these different parts of the world, and as well like in terms of crypto, Bitcoin adoption?
Especially in the GCC, I mean, they're really serious about being ahead of the curve on AI. They're building huge data centers. Some of them are attracting talent. Dubai had the UAE, I mean, had built a large language model called Falcon, and that's really the first time the region has made really big contribution to AI. So I think it's very encouraging, more so than many other trends. Um, but I think the book is still being written. I think there's a lot more work to do. I think they need to get better at attracting talent, at keeping talent, at enabling startups to start here and creating the infrastructure for them to thrive.
And can you share maybe some future plans for the development of Replit?
Well, I think that the really big thing for us this year is collaboration between humans and AIs, and humans and AIs and AIs. So we're building more collaborative features inside. Right, we just released collaborative AI features, so you can talk to AI and other people can see what you're talking to. You can share threads and things like that. And we're going to be doing a lot more of that. And then the second part is agents. We think it's getting close to the point where you can actually uh, give an agent a high level task, such as build a login page, and it will go and like build a login page for you.
And you mentioned as well like communication of AI with another AI. Do you see any threat that, for example, if one AI model is trained on some like bad malicious data and another one like was good, that like that AI agent may take something like
Oh yeah,
bad information from another one?
yeah. I mean, cybersecurity is going to be huge. I mean, that's one scenario, but there's a lot of different. Sorry, there's a lot of different scenarios. Uh, there's a paper that came out recently, I think from Anthropic, that talked about sleeper agents. The idea is that you can embed an agent inside the AI model that can be activated with a secret word. So you can red team it, you can look at it, you can do security, and you won't see that it's problematic. It's only activated when you give it a secret word. You can hide that capability. So I think I encourage a lot of entrepreneurs to start cybersecurity companies around AI. We would need a lot of that.
Do you plan any developments on that side with Replit on cybersecurity?
Not really. I mean, cybersecurity has always been part of Replit because we give free computer on the internet, and people try to use it for crypto, all sorts of things. Um, but I don't think we're going to move into cybersecurity or anything like that.
So how all these threats might be prevented, like by some cybersecurity company, or in what way?
Yeah, I think we're going to need a lot of companies. I think the LLM providers themselves are going to have to do it. It's just going to take an entire ecosystem.
Okay, let's see. Thank you for exciting conversation.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.